The message arrived on a cold morning in December 2247. Every screen on Earth displayed the same words. Translated from a language that no human had spoken before first contact, the Galactic Council, a union of 12 alien species that controlled most of known space, had finally decided that humanity was ready to join them. Ambassador Linda Morrison stood in the center of the United Earth Assembly Hall, her heart beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. She had spent her entire adult life working toward this moment. 20 years of careful diplomacy, of proving that humans could be trusted, of showing the galaxy that Earth was not a threat. The Council of 12 Species formally extends membership to the human race of Earth. She read aloud, her voice carrying across the silent hall. You are welcomed as the 13th member, with all rights and protections therein. The hall erupted in celebration. Representatives from every nation embraced each other. Some wept openly. After centuries of looking up at the stars and wondering if they were alone, humanity finally had an answer. They were not alone, and they had been accepted. Admiral Samuel Drake did not celebrate. He sat in the back row, watching the chaos of joy around him with cold eyes. He was 62 years old, and he had spent 40 of those years in military service. He had learned long ago that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. His deputy commander, Maria Santos, noticed his expression. She was younger than him by 20 years, but she had the same careful nature that made good officers. She leaned close, so no one else could hear. You look like someone just told you bad news, sir. Drake shook his head slowly. I read the full treaty last night. All 300 pages of it, and we give up 70% of our defensive fleet. We share all our technology. We cannot explore new systems without asking permission first. He paused. In exchange, we get protection from threats and some trade rights. Santos frowned. That does seem unbalanced. It is not unbalanced, Commander. It is a cage wrapped in pretty words. On the stage, President Catherine Webb approached the signing table. She was a popular leader, elected twice on promises of bringing humanity into the galactic community. The treaty was her greatest achievement. She picked up the pen and signed her name with confident strokes. The Valorian ambassador moved forward next. The Valorians had been humanity's first contact with alien life, arriving in trade ships 15 years ago. They were tall, insectoid beings with compound eyes that seemed to reflect every color at once. Their name translated roughly to morning light on still waters, though most humans simply called them the Valorian ambassador. Morning Light pressed a limb to the document in the traditional council manner. The treaty was complete. Today, President Webb declared to the cameras broadcasting to 8 billion humans. We take our rightful place among the stars. Linda Morrison finally allowed herself to relax. She had done it. She had brought humanity into the galactic family. All the doubters and critics who had called her naive would have to admit they were wrong. The Council had accepted Earth. Everything would be better now. She did not know that 3 months earlier, in a chamber that no human had ever seen, the 12 species of the Council had held a secret vote. The topic was simple: what to do about humanity. The Korath representative, an ancient being of living silicon named Vareth Neen, had spoken first. His voice sounded like stones grinding together. Humans are dangerous, he said. They adapt too quickly. They dream too large. In 10,000 years, they went from caves to starships. No other species has grown so fast. The Drexy ambassador, a small mammalian creature with 6 limbs, raised an objection. They have shown no aggression toward us. Perhaps we should give them a chance. A chance to surpass us? Vareth Nine replied. A chance to take what we have built over millions of years. No, they must be contained. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would be welcomed into the Council, but only so they could be controlled. The treaty was designed to strip Earth of its defenses and make it dependent on Council goodwill. If humans ever became troublesome, it would be easy to crush. Morning Light on Still Waters knew all of this, as it pressed its limb to the treaty. It felt something that might have been guilt, though Valorians did not have a word for that emotion. It reminded itself that the Council knew best. Humanity would be happier not knowing what awaited them if they stepped out of line, back on Earth. The celebrations continued for days. Streets filled with people cheering and singing. Children made drawings of alien friends they hoped to meet someday. Scientists talked excitedly about the technology they would learn from older civilizations. Admiral Drake did not attend any celebrations. Instead, he called a secret meeting of his most trusted officers in a secure bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. 12 men and women sat around a table, all of them wearing expressions as grim as his own. "The treaty is a trap," Drake said without introduction. "I cannot prove it yet, but I know it in my bones. The Council does not want partners. They want pets." Commander Santos spoke up. "What do you suggest we do, sir? The President has signed. The people support this." "I suggest we prepare," Drake replied. "Quietly, carefully, we follow the treaty in public. We reduce our fleet as required. We share our technology as demanded. But in secret, we build. We hide ships where Council observers will not find them. We develop weapons they do not know about. We prepare for the day when the Council shows its true face." One of the officers, a young captain named Daniel Cooper, looked uncomfortable. "Sir, that sounds like treason." Drake met his eyes steadily. "It sounds like survival, Captain. The Council has ruled this galaxy for longer than humans have existed. They did not get that power by being kind. They got it by eliminating threats before those threats could grow strong enough to challenge them." He leaned forward. "What do you think we look like to them? A promising new friend? Or a threat that needs to be eliminated?" The room was silent. "I hope I am wrong," Drake continued. "I hope the Council is exactly what Ambassador Morrison believes them to be. I hope humanity lives in peace and prosperity for 1,000 generations. But if I am right, if the day comes when the Council decides that humanity has become inconvenient, I want us to be ready." He looked around the table. Meeting each officer's eyes in turn, "I am asking you to commit your careers, perhaps your lives, to a secret that we may never need. If I am wrong, no one will ever know what we did here. If I am right, what we build in the shadows may be the only thing that saves our species." One by one. The officers nodded their agreement. In the assembly hall, Linda Morrison posed for photographs with the Valorian ambassador. She smiled for the cameras, genuinely happy, genuinely hopeful. She had no idea that the greatest test of her faith was already coming. 5 years after signing the treaty, Linda Morrison began to notice things that did not make sense. Small things at first, easy to explain away. A trade agreement that somehow always favored Council species over humans. An exploration permit denied for reasons that seemed to change every time she asked. Meetings where human representatives were asked to wait outside while important matters were discussed. She told herself it was normal. Humanity was new to the Council. Trust took time to build. She just needed to be patient. Then came the colony on Kepler-442. The planet was beautiful. A world of blue oceans and green forests that reminded colonists of Earth. 12,000 humans had built their homes there over 3 years. They had farms and schools and hospitals. Children had been born on that world who had never seen Earth, except in pictures. Governor Daniel Cooper, same young captain who had once sat in Admiral Drake's secret meeting, now led the colony. He had left the military to build something new, something hopeful. He believed that humanity's future was in the stars. He wanted to be part of it. His colonists discovered the crystals by accident. A mining team drilling for water found veins of quantum crystals running deep beneath the surface. These crystals were rare and valuable, essential for faster-than-light communication systems. A single deposit could be worth more than most planets. Cooper reported the discovery through proper channels, expecting congratulations. Instead, he received a message from the Council informing him that Kepler-442 was now designated as protected space. All human colonists had 30 days to evacuate. "This is our home," Cooper transmitted back to Earth. "We built this with our own hands. They cannot simply take it. They could." The treaty that President Webb had signed gave the Council authority over all new resource discoveries. Humanity had agreed to these terms. They had not understood what they were agreeing to. Linda Morrison rushed to speak with Council Speaker Vareth Neen. The Silicon being listened to her arguments with what might have been patience or might have been boredom. It was impossible to tell with his kind. Ambassador Morrison, he said when she finished, the decision has been made. Your colonists will be compensated fairly. They will be relocated to an approved world. This is how the council functions. Those people have lives there, Linda protested. Families, homes. You cannot simply uproot them. We can, Vareth Neen replied. And we will. Humanity must learn that council decisions are not negotiable. This is for your own good. In time, you will understand. Linda returned to her quarters and stared at the wall for a long time. Something cold was growing in her chest, something that felt like the death of hope. On Kepler 442, Governor Cooper watched Council warships take up positions around his planet. There were 20 of them, more firepower than the entire human fleet that remained after treaty reductions. He knew he could not fight them. He also knew he would not simply abandon everything his people had built. He sent one final message to Earth. They are not here to protect anything. They are here to take what we have built. Remember us? Admiral Drake, watching from his hidden command center, requested permission to send relief ships. President Webb, advised by diplomats who still believed in Council goodwill, refused. Starting a conflict with the Council over one colony would endanger all of humanity. The colonists would be evacuated safely. Everything would be fine. The evacuation began on schedule. Transport ships lifted off from the colony, carrying families who had packed their entire lives into small bags. Children pressed their faces against windows, watching their homes shrink below them. The Council commander, a Valorian named Bright Edge of Morning Sky, watched the transports rise. His orders were clear, delivered in a coded message that would never appear in official records. The humans on those ships were witnesses to Council methods. Witnesses could cause problems. He gave the order to fire. The Council ships opened up with precision, weapons designed to destroy targets quickly and completely. The first transport exploded in a ball of fire, then the second, then the third. Families who had been looking forward to starting over on a new world died without. Understanding why? 4,312 humans died in 6 minutes. Governor Cooper was on the last transport. He saw the ships ahead of him explode. He understood what was happening. His final act was to activate the ship's recording systems, capturing everything on video that would be transmitted automatically to Earth. Then his ship exploded too. The Council released an official statement within hours. The human transports had violated evacuation protocols. They had deviated from approved flight corridors. Council forces had been forced to act in self-defense. The Council expressed deep regret for this unfortunate incident. Linda. Morrison watched the video from Governor Cooper's ship. She saw the transports flying in perfect formation along the exact route they had been assigned. She saw Council weapons lock onto them. She saw children's faces in the windows in the moment before impact. She watched it 3 times, making sure she understood what she was seeing. Then she walked to her bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left inside her. When she emerged, something had changed in her eyes. The hope that had driven her for 20 years was gone. In its place was something harder, something colder. She began to gather evidence. Every suspicious incident from the past 5 years, every denied permit, every unfair trade deal, every closed-door meeting. She compiled reports that would have gotten her arrested. If anyone had known what she was doing, Admiral Drake received her encrypted transmission 3 days later. He read it twice, then called Commander Santos to his office. "Ambassador Morrison has woken up," he said, sliding the data tablet across his desk. "She sees what we have always seen." Santos read the files, her expression growing darker with each page. "This is enough to convince anyone. We should release it to the public." "Not yet," Drake replied. "The President still believes in diplomacy. The public still wants to believe the Council is trustworthy. If we release this now, we will be called conspiracy theorists and traitors." He paused. But the time is coming. The Council has shown its hand. They will show it again. When they do, we need to be ready. 3 months later, President Catherine Webb died in an explosion at a diplomatic reception. The Council investigation determined that human extremists, angry about Kepler 442, had planted the bomb. The case was closed in record time. Justice, the Council declared, had been served. Admiral Drake's intelligence operatives intercepted communications that told a different story. The bomb had been placed by Council agents. President Webb had been asking too many questions about Kepler 442. She had started to doubt the official story. She had become inconvenient. Drake sat alone in his office that night looking at photographs of the dead president. She had been a good woman, he thought. Naive perhaps, but good. She had believed in a better future. He wondered how many more good people would have to die before humanity finally understood the truth. In her quarters on the Council station, Linda Morrison made a decision. She would stay at her post. She would smile at the beings who had murdered her people. She would pretend to be the same trusting fool she had always been, and she would gather evidence. Names, dates, communications, plans, everything she could find about Council operations against humanity. When the time came for humanity to strike back, they would know exactly where to aim. Vice President Gregory Simmons had never wanted to be president. He was a quiet man who preferred working behind the scenes, handling the boring details that kept governments running. But when President Webb died in that explosion, he found himself standing before the Earth's assembly, taking an oath he had never expected to take, his first week in office. He received a visit from Admiral Drake. The Admiral arrived with the data, a tablet containing everything his operatives had gathered over 5 years. Evidence of Council manipulation. Records of unfair treaties designed to weaken humanity. Communications proving that the Kepler 442 massacre had been planned in advance, and most damning of all, proof that President Webb had been assassinated by Council agents. Simmons read through the files in silence. When he finished, his hands were shaking. "Why did you not bring this to President Webb?" he asked. "I tried," Drake replied. "She was starting to listen. That is why they killed her." Simmons set down the tablet and walked to his window. Outside, the sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. It was beautiful. It was hard to believe that somewhere out there, alien beings were planning to destroy everything humanity had built. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" "We have been preparing for this moment for 5 years," Drake said. "We have ships hidden in asteroid fields that Council observers have never found. We have weapons systems that work on principles they do not understand. We have countermeasures for their override codes." He paused. "We are ready to cut all ties and defend ourselves. But the decision must come from you, sir." Simmons turned back to face him. "If we do this, there is no going back. The Council will see us as enemies. They already see us as enemies. Mr. President, they just have not told us yet." 3 days later, Simmons called an emergency meeting in the secure bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. Every senior military officer, every intelligence chief, and Ambassador Linda Morrison, who had returned from the Council station under cover of a family emergency. Linda presented her evidence first. 5 years of careful documentation showing pattern after pattern of Council deception. Trade deals designed to keep humanity poor. Technology sharing that somehow never went both ways. Exploration permits denied to humans while being granted freely to other species. "They never intended to accept us as equals," she said, her voice steady despite the anger burning in her chest. "From the very beginning, we were meant to be controlled. The treaty was not a partnership. It was a leash." Admiral Drake presented the military assessment next. Council forces were vast, but they were spread across thousands of systems. They had grown comfortable with their power, confident that no one would challenge them. Their ships were old designs that had not been updated in centuries. Why would they change what had always worked? Human ships, by contrast, were new. Human engineers had spent years studying Council technology and finding its weaknesses. The hidden fleet that Drake had built in secret was small compared to Council forces, but it was advanced in ways the Council could not imagine. "We cannot beat them in a prolonged war," Drake admitted. "But we do not need to beat them. We need to hurt them badly enough that they decide we are not worth the trouble. Commander Maria Santos, now promoted to captain of the carrier Endurance, spoke last. She had spent years training crews in secret, running simulations against council tactics, preparing for a fight that everyone hoped would never come. Our people are ready, she said simply. They know what the council did at Kepler 442. They know about President Webb. They are not afraid. President Simmons listened to everything. Then he asked the question that had been weighing on his mind since Drake first came to him. What happens to our colonies? We have millions of people on dozens of worlds. If we break from the council, those people will be vulnerable, Linda Morrison answered. We have been quietly evacuating non-essential personnel for months. The remaining colonists have been warned to prepare for rapid departure. Within 48 hours of your order, every human outside the Sol system can be on their way home. Simmons nodded slowly. He looked around the room at the faces watching him. These people had given years of their lives to preparing for this moment. They had believed in humanity when humanity had not believed in itself. Activate Protocol Lazarus, he said. The room burst into controlled chaos. Officers rushed to communication stations. Encrypted orders went out to hidden ships, 2 secret bases, 2 agents embedded in council systems. The machinery of resistance, built in shadows over 5 years, roared to life. Linda Morrison drafted the message that would be broadcast to the council. She chose her words carefully, knowing they would be remembered for generations. To the Galactic Council, the message began. Humanity formally withdraws from all treaties and agreements signed under false pretenses. We do not recognize your authority over human space. We do not accept your version of events at Kepler 442. We do not forgive the murder of our people and our president. She paused, thinking about all the years she had spent believing in cooperation, in trust, in the basic goodness of beings she had never truly understood. You taught us that trust is weakness, she continued. We learned the lesson well. Any council vessel entering human territory will be treated as hostile. Do not contact us again. The message was broadcast on all frequencies, in all council languages. Simultaneously, human technicians shut down every communication relay connecting Earth to council space. Defense platforms that had been secretly installed around Sol system activated, their weapons locking onto approach vectors. Captain Santos watched her tactical display light up with contacts. As hidden human ships emerged from their hiding places, the Endurance was no longer alone. 17 other vessels, each one built in secret, each one crewed by men and women who understood what was at stake, formed up around her. All ships report ready. Sir, she transmitted to Admiral Drake. Hold position and wait, Drake replied. The Council will respond. When they do, we need to show them what humanity can do. The response came faster than anyone expected. A Council diplomatic ship jumped into the outer Sol system, its shields down in the traditional sign of peaceful intent. Its commander broadcast a message demanding to speak with whoever was in charge. President Simmons took the call himself. This is madness, the Council diplomat said. It was a Valorian, its compound eyes flickering with what might have been anger or fear. You cannot survive without the Council. You will starve. You will be conquered by hostile species. You need us. Simmons smiled, and there was no warmth in it. We needed you when we were weak. We are not weak anymore. We have spent 5 years preparing for this moment while you assumed we were too stupid to see what you were doing. The Council will not accept this. There will be consequences. There already have been consequences, Simmons replied. 4,312 of them at Kepler 442. A president murdered for asking questions. Years of manipulation and lies. He leaned forward. Go back to your masters. Tell them that humanity is done being their victim. Tell them that if they want a war, we will give them one they will never forget. The diplomatic ship retreated. The border sealed behind it. For the first time in 5 years, humanity was truly alone. But this time, they had chosen to be alone. This time, they were ready for whatever came next. Admiral Drake looked at the tactical display showing human ships holding position around their home system. It was a small fleet compared to what the Council could bring against them. But it was theirs. Every ship, every weapon, every crew member represented years of careful preparation. Now he said quietly, "We wait. And we build. And when they come for us, we show them what happens when humanity stops asking for permission." 10 years of silence changed humanity in ways that no one could have predicted. Without Council rules telling them what they could and could not do, human scientists and engineers were free to explore ideas that had been forbidden under the treaty. The results were remarkable. Dr. Patricia Coleman, a physicist who had spent years pretending to be less intelligent than she was to avoid Council attention, finally published her theories on quantum field manipulation. Within 2 years, her work led to propulsion systems that made Council engines look like children's toys. Ships that once took weeks to cross between stars could now make the same journey in days. Admiral Drake, now Fleet Admiral of the United Earth Defense Force, watched the transformation with quiet satisfaction. Every month brought new advances, better shields, more powerful weapons, communication systems that allowed instant contact across any distance, something the Council had always claimed was impossible. "They kept us small because they were afraid of what we could become," he told Captain Santos during one of their regular briefings. "Now we are becoming it." Santos had been promoted twice in the years of isolation. She commanded Earth's primary defensive fleet from the bridge of the rebuilt Endurance, a ship that bore little resemblance to the vessel she had first captained. Human engineers had stripped it down to the frame and rebuilt it with technology the Council had never seen. "Intelligence reports say the Council is falling apart," she reported. "The Valorians blamed the Korath for losing us. The Korath blamed the Drexy for voting against the original containment plan. They have been arguing for years about what to do." Drake nodded. Ambassador Morrison predicted this. The Council was never truly united. They stayed together because they feared external threats more than they hated each other. When we removed ourselves as a convenient enemy, they had no one to unite against. Linda Morrison had spent the isolation years in a different kind of work. While Drake built ships, she built understanding. She studied Council species with the same careful attention she had once given to building relationships with them. She learned their histories, their weaknesses, their secret fears. "The Valorians are terrified of being alone," she explained in her reports to President Simmons. "Their species nearly went extinct in a war 2 million years ago. They joined the Council because they thought collective power would protect them. But they have never trusted any other species. Not really. The Korath are arrogant. They believe their silicon-based biology makes them superior to carbon-based life. They have always seen other species as tools to be used. They supported containing humanity not because they feared us, but because they wanted our creativity for themselves. The Drexy are the most interesting. Their ambassador voted against the action at Kepler 442. They were overruled, but they have never forgotten. If we ever want to build real alliances, the Drexy might be willing to listen." President Simmons filed these reports carefully. He understood that isolation could not last forever. Eventually, humanity would need to engage with the galaxy again. When that day came, they would need to know who could be trusted and who could not. The attack came in the 15th year of human isolation. Fleet Admiral Drake was reviewing construction reports when the alert reached him. Long-range sensors had detected a massive energy signature at the edge of the Sol system. Something was coming through hyperspace. Something big. "All ships to battle stations," he ordered. This is not a drill. Council fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. 600 vessels from 8 different species, more firepower than humanity had ever faced. They formed up in an attack formation that military analysts had studied in simulations for years. Council Speaker Verathanine broadcast an ultimatum. His grinding voice echoed across every human communication channel. "Humanity will surrender unconditionally. Your leaders will face trial for crimes against galactic peace. Your species will be relocated to designated worlds under permanent Council supervision. You have 1 solar day to comply. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." Fleet Admiral Drake listened to the ultimatum in silence. Then he opened a channel to his fleet. "All ships, this is the Fleet Admiral. You know what they did at Kepler 442? You know what they have planned for us if we surrender? Today we show them what humanity does when backed into a corner. He paused. Today we fight. 127 human ships moved to intercept 600 council vessels. The numbers looked impossible. But numbers were not everything. Admiral Santos commanded the center of the human formation from the Endurance. Her crews had trained for this moment for years. They knew their ships better than the Council knew their own. They knew exactly what human technology could do. All ships engage quantum link communication, she ordered. Full tactical integration. The Council fleet saw the human ships approaching and prepared for an easy victory. They had overwhelming numbers. They had weapons that had conquered species far older than humanity. This would be over quickly. Then the humans opened fire. The first Council ship exploded before its crew understood what had hit them. Human weapons operated on principles that Council scientists had dismissed as theoretical impossibilities. Shields that had stopped every known weapon simply flickered and died under the assault. All ships slow. Break and engage, Santos commanded. Human vessels moved with perfect coordination, their quantum-linked communication allowing them to act as a single entity. When one ship fired, every other ship knew exactly where the shot would go. When one captain saw an opportunity, every other captain saw it at the same moment. The Council fleet, by contrast, moved like 12 different navies pretending to work together. Valorian ships kept their distance from Korath vessels, ancient distrust making them unwilling to coordinate closely. Drexy frigates clustered together for mutual protection rather than supporting their supposed allies. 5 hours into the battle, the Council fleet had lost 100 ships. Humanity had lost 12. Varathnin watched the disaster unfold from his command ship. He had expected this to be a simple demonstration of Council power. Instead, it was becoming a catastrophe. "You should not be able to do this," he said to his tactical officer. "Our ships are superior. Our weapons are proven. How are they defeating us?" The tactical officer had no answer. Nothing in Council military doctrine had prepared them for an enemy that could adapt faster than they could respond. At the 8-hour mark, the Council fleet began to retreat. Varathnin ordered a withdrawal, claiming that the mission had achieved its objectives. No one believed him, but no one was willing to argue. When the Council fleet jumped back to hyperspace, they left behind 217 destroyed ships. Humanity had lost 30-4. Admiral Santos stood on the bridge of the Endurance, watching the enemy signatures fade from her tactical display. Around her, crew members were cheering, embracing, some of them crying with relief. She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships. This is Admiral Santos. We did it. We showed them that humanity is not prey. We showed them that we will never be conquered." She paused, thinking about all the people who had died to bring them to this moment. The colonists at Kepler 442, President Webb, the crews of the 34 ships they had lost today. "Remember this day," she continued. "Remember what it cost. Remember what it means? The galaxy tried to break us, and we refused to break. That is what it means to be human." Fleet Admiral Drake watched the final after-action reports come in. He was 77 years old, and he had spent the last 20 years preparing for a battle he had always hoped would never come. It had come, and humanity had won. He allowed himself a small smile. Then he returned to work. One battle did not win a war. The Council would be back. They would have to be ready. But for now, for this one moment, humanity could celebrate. They had earned it. The news of the Battle of Souls spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. For the first time in recorded history, a species had defeated a combined Council fleet. The 12 masters of known space had been humiliated by the youngest civilization in the galaxy. The Council did not survive the defeat. Within months of the battle, ancient rivalries that had simmered for millennia exploded into open conflict. The Valorians accused the Korath of providing faulty intelligence about human capabilities. The Korath blamed the Valorians for poor tactical planning. The Drexy, who had warned against the attack from the beginning, withdrew their representatives from council chambers entirely. Linda Morrison watched the collapse from Earth, where she had returned after the years of isolation. She was 63 years old now, her hair gone gray, her face lined with the weight of everything she had seen and done. But her mind was as sharp as ever. They held together because they had common enemies, she explained to President Simmons during a strategy meeting. First, it was the Kethrani Empire, which they destroyed 1,000,000 years ago. Then it was the fear of rising species like us. Now they have no one to fear but each other. Should we help them tear each other apart? Simmons asked. Linda shook her head. No, we do not want a galaxy in chaos. We want a galaxy where we can trade, explore, and live in peace. That means eventually we will need to work with some of these species. As she paused. But this time, we work with them on our terms. She proposed what would become known as the Morrison Doctrine. Humanity would establish relationships with individual species based on mutual respect and verified trust. No more grand alliances that could be used to trap them. No more treaties that required them to give up their sovereignty. Any species that dealt honestly with Earth would find humans to be generous partners. Any species that attempted deception would find humans to be implacable enemies. The Drexy were the first to approach under the new framework. Their ambassador arrived at the edge of human space in a single ship, its weapons powered down, its broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. Human patrol vessels escorted it to a neutral station where Linda Morrison was waiting. The Drexy ambassador was small compared to most council species. A mammalian being with 6 limbs and large ears that moved constantly to catch every sound. Its name translated roughly to Swift Runner through Morning Mist, though it told Linda she could simply call it Swift. We voted against the attack on your colony world, Swift said. We voted against the war fleet. We were overruled both times, but we never forgot what the council did in our name. The ambassador's ears drooped. We are ashamed. Linda studied the small being carefully. She had learned to read alien body language over decades of diplomatic work, and she saw genuine regret in Swift's posture. Why come to us now? She asked. Because the council is finished, Swift replied. The Korath and Valorians will fight each other until both are exhausted. The other species will choose sides or try to stay neutral. There will be chaos for generations. Its ears perked up slightly. The Drexy do not want to be part of that chaos. We want to build something better. We believe humans might want the same thing. Linda took her time responding. She thought about all the years she had spent trusting the council, believing in their good intentions, making excuses for their behavior. She had been wrong then. She could not afford to be wrong again. We'll start small, she finally said. Trade agreements. Cultural exchanges. We will see how your people behave when there are no other council species watching. If you prove trustworthy, we will discuss deeper cooperation. That is fair, Swift agreed. We will earn your trust. It will take time, but the Drexy are patient. Over the following years, the Morrison Doctrine proved its value. The Drexy became genuine partners, their honesty earning them access to human markets and technology. Several other former council species followed, each one carefully evaluated before being allowed into human space. Fleet Admiral Drake retired at the age of 82, his work finally complete. He had spent his entire adult life preparing for a war he hoped would never come, then fighting it when it arrived. Now he could rest. His final act as Fleet Admiral was to promote Maria Santos to take his place. She was the obvious choice. She had commanded the human fleet at the Battle of Sol. She had spent years building the navy that had saved their species. No one knew better what it took to keep humanity safe. Keep them ready, Drake told her during the ceremony. The council is gone, but the galaxy is still dangerous. There will always be someone who thinks humans are weak, who thinks they can take what we have built. When that someone comes, we need to be ready. Santos saluted him, her eyes bright with emotion. Always, sir. I learned from the best. Drake retired to a small house near the mountains, where he had once held secret meetings to plan humanity's survival. He spent his remaining years writing memoirs and teaching young officers. His final words, spoken to a class of cadets the week before he died, became famous. Never let anyone tell you that you need to be less than what you are, he said. The galaxy tried to diminish us. They told us we were too young, too aggressive, too dangerous. They wanted us to accept limitations that they had designed to keep us weak. We refused. That refusal is the most human thing we can do. President Simmons served 3 terms before stepping down. His successor, President Michelle Turner, continued the policies that had transformed humanity from council victims to galactic power. Linda Morrison never stopped working, even as age slowed her body. At 73, she requested permission to address the Earth's assembly one final time before her retirement. The hall was packed. Representatives from Earth and a dozen human colonies filled the seats. Drexy and other allied species watched via diplomatic screens. Everyone wanted to hear what the woman who had helped save humanity had to say. Linda walked slowly to the podium. She looked out at the faces watching her, faces of people who had been born after the isolation, who knew the Council War only from history lessons. "When I was young," she began, her voice still strong, despite her years, "I believed that if humanity just tried hard enough, if we were patient enough, if we followed the rules, the galaxy would accept us. I believed that trust was strength. I was wrong." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Trust is not weakness, but blind trust is. The Council taught us that lesson at the cost of thousands of lives. They taught us that the galaxy does not reward kindness with kindness. They taught us that the only respect worth having is the respect you earn through strength." She looked at the allied species, representatives watching through their screens, but they also taught us something else, something I do not think they intended. They taught us that we did not need them. They told us we were too young to survive alone, and we proved them wrong. They told us we were too weak to defend ourselves, and we broke their fleets. They told us our dreams were too big for the universe to hold, and we built those dreams with our own hands. Linda smiled, and there was warmth in it now, warmth she had not felt in years. Today, humanity stands not as servants or supplicants, but as equals. We earn that place through sacrifice, through determination, through the simple refusal to accept that we were less than what we knew ourselves to be. Let that be the lesson we carry forward, not just for ourselves, but for any species that faces what we faced. She straightened, her voice rising. "You are never as weak as others want you to believe. You are never as alone as you fear. And you are never, ever required to accept a cage simply because someone tells you it is for your own good." The assembly rose in standing ovation. Humans and aliens alike. Outside, in the skies above Earth, patrol ships maintained their eternal vigil. On 100 worlds, human children looked up at stars that their grandparents had once believed would forever belong to others. The galaxy had tried to deny humanity its place among the stars. It had called them too young, too dangerous, too ambitious. It had tried to cage them with treaties and crush them with fleets. Humanity had disagreed, and in the end, humanity had been right. Fleet Admiral Maria Santos stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching a convoy of human colony ships heading toward a new system. They were going to build homes on a world that no council species had ever claimed, a world that would belong to humanity alone. She thought about everyone who had made this moment possible. Admiral Drake, who had prepared for a war everyone else refused to see coming. Linda Morrison, who had turned her broken faith into the wisdom that now guided human diplomacy. President Simmons, who had made the hardest decision in human history. The colonists at Kepler 442, whose deaths had finally opened humanity's eyes. "This is for all of you," she said quietly. "We did not forget. We never will." The colony ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying the next generation of humanity toward a future that was finally, truly their own.